Hi, everybody. My name is Jenna Overbaugh. I am a licensed professional counselor here at NOCD. And along with Tia Wilson, who is our OCD support group leader here at NOCD, we are going to be doing a relationship workshop on relationship OCD specifically. And we know that so many of you couldn't make it. So we're really sad about that. We wanted to find a way to still make you all feel included, to ensure that you're still working on these things outside of therapy or on your own if you can't access therapy. So we wanted to make sure that you had a way to access the activity and the worksheet that we're going to be going over during the relationship OCD workshop. And this video is our way of just giving you a little bit more background to the worksheet and giving you a little bit of motivation, hopefully, and encouragement to complete this activity on your own. So, for this relationship OCD workshop, we are planning on going over some common relationship OCD cognitive distortions. So, cognitive distortions are fancy ways of basically saying that there are these tricks that our mind can play on us. They're rooted in emotion, not logic. And we all, regardless of whether we have OCD or not, regardless of what subtype we have or what it is that we're having a hard time with, we as human beings are vulnerable to giving into these cognitive distortions every once in a while, especially more so with OCD. So what's really important is that we recognize when we're falling victim to or kind of giving into these cognitive distortions. It's really important to understand when we're experiencing them, not so we can combat them with logic, because we know that that doesn't work with OCD, but rather we can start to implement some exposure and response prevention strategies. ERP is obviously the gold standard treatment for OCD, and that's what we use here at NoCD. So, first things first, just some basic education about some of the cognitive distortions that we're going to go over during the workshop. First, we have all or nothing. So, an example of this is that my relationship is either 100% perfect or it's absolutely terrible, it's awful, and I need to get out of it right away. The reality is that there's beauty in the complicated nature of relationships, right? And that they kind of ebb and flow, and that the reality is that sometimes it's going to feel bad and sometimes it's going to feel good, and that no amount of compulsions, no relationship is ever going to feel 100% perfect. That's a little bit different from combating that with reassurance, which is, oh, my partner is great. My partner is wonderful. So it's really about one, acknowledging these cognitive distortions, and two, trying to actively find a more balanced and more realistic view. And bonus points if we can even make that be a little bit more uncertain, right? Because we know that OCD does not like that. And so in order to break that OCD cycle, we're going to have to implement and try to tolerate some more of that uncertainty. Another example here is catastrophizing. So we often tend to jump to the worst case scenarios. So if you found someone else to be more attractive than your partner, that might to you and to your OCD be misinterpreted as, oh my gosh, I found someone else attractive. That must mean that I'm not a loyal partner. That must mean that I need to break this relationship off right away, so on and so forth. When in reality, the truth is that, maybe that meant something, maybe it didn't. There's a lot of things that happen when it comes to other people, and when other people are involved, that's not something that I'm going to answer right now. And no amount of confessing or, no breaking up of a relationship is going to make me feel 100% perfect about my relationship. So if we continue here, there are some other examples here that you can see, but essentially we want you all to spend some time being really thoughtful and writing down some of the cognitive distortions that you recognize showing up in your own relationships. And it's important to recognize too that relationship OCD and obsessions and compulsions don't just have to present themselves with a romantic partner, although that is really common. It can happen with any type of meaningful relationship that you have. It can even happen with pets or with people that you've never met before. I've had a lot of people who struggle with relationship OCD and obsessions and compulsions about celebrities that they've never met. So just be really thoughtful about the kind of cognitive distortions that you are recognizing showing up in your own life. Then, as we continue here to the next page, and something that we're going to talk about in the workshop as well, are relationship OCD compulsions. And there are some examples here, but mentally reviewing anything relating to the relationship. A really common one, too, is comparing your relationship or the integrity of your relationship or your partner to other people or other relationships. So we want you to take some time as well to be really mindful and thoughtful and intentional about writing down those compulsions. Try to be very specific about all the things that you feel compelled to do whenever you're really anxious or really doubtful or feel like you need more reassurance. Are you avoiding certain things? Are there things that you do mentally as mental compulsions? Are there physical things that you do? So writing down all of those things would be the next step. And then what we want you to do here to kind of wrap up the activity is to start to come to some balanced and alternative phrases or statements or realizations, really, that are more balanced, uncertain, and more flexible. Again, I want to underscore that this is not us fighting back at OCD with logic or with 100% the opposite, right? So if you are giving into the cognitive distortion that, that all other relationships are perfect and mine is awful, all other relationships, the people get along perfectly and we don't, that must mean something negative. I don't want anybody to combat that with logic or reassurance by saying, oh, our relationship is great. We have a good time together. I would rather someone come back with something that's a little bit more balanced, uncertain, and flexible, which means, for example, could be, I don't know what's going on in other relationships. There are going to be good times and bad times in my relationship too. So hopefully you guys can witness the nuance there. And then finally, how are you going to practice living that life and kind of challenging these cognitive distortions through your actions? So we know that at the end of the day, we can't kind of talk our way out of these difficulties. We have to actually give our brains and give our bodies new experiences through behavioral actions. So for instance, if you are feeling really guilty because you found someone to be, slightly attractive and that, is interpreted by your OCD as being bad and awful and you need to confess it, maybe something that you try to do is try to challenge yourself to not confess that to your partner. And it's going to feel bad, it's going to feel scary, it might feel irresponsible, but that would be the exposure, right? The exposure and the response prevention would be to kind of expose yourself to that uncomfortable situation, and start to implement that response prevention of not giving in to those compulsions that we talked about earlier. So I know this probably isn't as good or as thorough as actually being present for the workshop. Please know that we're doing everything that we can to try to give everybody and give the community as many resources as possible. We wish that there was a way to get everybody there and just appease everybody's schedules. But in the meanwhile, please keep an eye out on your email. Please also make sure that you go and fill out the feedback form or otherwise try to reach out to us. You can do that via email, you can do that via social media. And let us know. Let us know what times, what days work for you. We're always able to kind of pivot and readjust. And like I said, at the end of the day, our mission here at NOCD is to make sure that we do whatever we can and everything that we can to reduce the global suffering caused by OCD. So, with that said, on behalf of Tia, Wilson, and I, we really hope to see you at a future workshop. And if you can't make this one, we really hope that this video and this worksheet gives you a little bit of something to stay motivated and stay encouraged on your recovery journey. So thank you all so much. Hope to see you either at this workshop or a future workshop. But we'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.